As part of explaining this, there's a profile of Valerie Jarrett written by Noam Schreiber in the New Republic. And, this kind of piece isn't usually like, if that's your sort of thing, if you want to read profiles of people who occupy these positions, and Noam Schreiber's a great writer, and, there's interesting color and detail to some of these stories. You can learn about people's idiosyncrasies or whatever. But what makes this story really relevant is that Valerie Jarrett is very close to President Obama. She is someone who not only is a representative to a lot of different constituencies, the immigrants' rights organizations, gay rights organizations, but also Wall Street, also the business community. She's someone who is perceived, and it seems to be correctly by the reporting, as being incredibly close to President Obama and really in sync with his worldview and temperament and attitude. And, a couple of the takeaways from this piece are that she feeds the instinct of getting angry and enraged with progressive groups who call out this president and lecturing them on, the immigration isn't happening because of the Republicans and blah, which, sure, it is happening because of the Republicans, but Obama had the power to stop the deportations, and he didn't, right? Like those types of issues. The rage, the thing, even though she had a bad relationship with Rahm Emanuel, that whole thing of, the liberals are effing retards. On the other hand, when the business community whined to her about Obama using the phrase fat cats in 2010, she was responsive to that, according to this reporting, and was concerned that that was unnecessarily hostile to business groups. They said during meetings on healthcare, she was more interested in what the CEOs of insurance companies had to say than anybody else. And that instinct to concede and go for compromise when another group is just going to say, thanks, no, I appreciate that. Here are the 6 next things we need. In fact, there's a report that she went back to a business person, one of the people who'd whined about the fat cat comment. She said she raised it with Obama. They talked about it, and the concerns were acknowledged. And they said, yeah, thanks, we noted that. Here are 5 more things. And that's exactly the attitude that led to the disaster of 2011, moving to austerity, slowing the economy down, offering Republicans obscene deals on Medicare and Social Security, which were wrong in policy, wrong on ethics, and wrong on politics. So those impulses are a big problem, and Valerie Jarrett appears to amplify them. The other thing is he finally came up with a term that I think really does sort of convey what this administration's about, and that's boardroom liberalism. And I think it's a really apt term. And I know a lot of people, personally, who definitely, this is their worldview. It's like none of the kind of basic structures of things should be questioned or in any way fundamentally reformed. There's a basic trust in elites. There's a strong social liberalism, which is nice. And there is a sense that if you can just get a bunch of people, we've always heard, if you get a bunch of people in a room that represent different sectors, that have similar educational outlooks and similar educational experience and outlooks, you can kind of grind out technocratic solutions. And the point that Schreiber makes is, even if you're actually sympathetic to that worldview, you're not even dealing in a terrain where all elites are like that anymore, even remotely. I mean, you have elites like the Koch brothers who can't stand any encroachment on basically their pure funneling and exploitation of every aspect of the American system just for personal enrichment. There isn't any civic spirit here. There isn't any rationality to be appealed to. So when you have an opposition that is made up by fanatics at the grassroots and the truly thuggish and cynical at the top, there isn't a room, even if you're reasonable, you can't compromise. And he also points out the last point that I think is relevant, that even though President Clinton was probably in some respects maybe more conservative than President Obama on a kind of personal level, he didn't have a problem. Yes, when he ran for re-election in 1996, he signed a horrible welfare bill that was disgusting. He signed the Defense of Marriage Act, anti-gay discrimination. all of this stuff to cynically exploit and appease those issues. But he also ran on Medicare, Medicaid, education, and the environment as red lines, like relentless red lines. And even on the cynical level of just coming out and saying, I am not going to compromise on your stupid ideas for programs that everybody likes, is, again, we say it every week, it's both right and the most obvious thing to do politically. I think that they get, on some level, the Obama world gets that there are people like Ted Cruz who truly are insane, but they don't get that. Or the level of cynicism of people like McConnell and Boehner.